family, and friends, welcome to the 296th commencement exercises of Bowling Green State University. Let the ceremony begin. Our tradition is to begin and end each ceremony with the sounds of the Centennial, an original musical composition written by BGSU alumnus Ryan Nolan. This piece was commissioned to celebrate the Centennial of Bowling Green State University. Please rise and join us in honoring the December 2019 graduates. Ladies and gentlemen, in keeping with the significance of this occasion, we ask that you observe a few simple courtesies. First, please do not obstruct the aisles to take photographs or congratulate the graduates. A professional photographer will be taking pictures of the graduates. Second, please follow the directions of the commencement marshals and ushers. And third, please do not leave until the alma mater has been sung at the conclusion of the ceremony. The audience is asked to remain seated for the recessional while the platform participants, faculty, staff, and new graduates recess. Once the graduates have recessed, you may join them for the reception at locations throughout the Stroh Center. Finally, in honor of our candidates, please silence your cell phones now. Thank you. Please join us in welcoming the faculty of Bowling Green State University. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the President's Party, members of the Board of Trustees, Provost and Senior Vice President, Deans of the colleges, members of the President's Cabinet, our commencement speaker, and the 12th President of Bowling Green State University, Dr. Rodney Rogers. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as the Bowling Green State University Pershing Rifles presents the colors. Please remain standing for the National Anthem under the leadership of Nick Cotman, a Bachelor of Musical Arts candidate. Gentlemen, please remove your hats.
Bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Ron Scherer, and I have the honor of serving as the University Marshal for today's ceremony. I wish to thank Mr. Kottman and the Bowling Green State University Pershing Rifles. Please be seated. Graduates, parents, families, spouses, partners, and friends, I have the honor, on behalf of the faculty, to welcome you to Bowling Green State University's 296th commencement ceremony. This occasion offers an opportunity to come together as a community of learners to both celebrate and reflect upon our graduates' many academic accomplishments. For each graduate and for all of us, this is a significant day. It is now my great pleasure to present the President of Bowling Green State University, Dr. Rodney Rogers.
Thank you, Dr. Scherer. Good evening, students, families, and friends of Bowling Green State University. This weekend, we are celebrating a very momentous occasion in the lives of 1,047 graduates. It is my privilege to begin tonight's address by recognizing those who provide the leadership at Bowling Green State University. So first, let me introduce the platform party. As I announce the names, please stand and remain standing, and I ask you to hold your applause until the end. Members of the Board of Trustees of Bowling Green State University, Daniel Keller, Chair. Betty Montgomery, Vice Chair. Marilyn Isley. Leah Fishman, Graduate Student Trustee. Sheryl Maxfield, tonight's commencement speaker. Joe Whitehead, Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. Thomas Gibson, Vice President for Student Affairs and Vice Provost. Margaret Zoller Booth, Dean of the Graduate College. Ray Craig, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences. Ray Braun, Dean of the College of Business. Dawn Chanu, Dean of the College of Education and Human Development. James Cicela, Dean of the College of Health and Human Services. William Mathis, Dean of the College of Musical Arts. Jenny Gallimore, Dean of the College of Technology, Architecture, and Applied Engineering. Andrew Kurtz, Dean of the BGSU Firelands. Simon Morgan Russell, Dean of the Honors College; Sarah Bouchong, Dean of the University Libraries; Linda Lewandowski, Dean of the University of Toledo's College of Nursing; and Jen Stucker, Chair of the Faculty Senate. Let's give these individuals a round of applause. Thank you. You know, great universities are comprised of great faculty and mentors. They are at the heart of our academic mission. Their teaching skills, research, expertise, and involvement in our students' education are the hallmarks of a BG experience. And we are proud of their contributions to create and support our learning community and appreciate that they actively engage students in valuable learning experiences, mentor them as professionals, and advise them in their academic and career pursuits. And so I ask that our faculty members that are with us this evening to please stand. Graduates, please recognize our faculty of Bowling Green. So as we begin the ceremony, I want to share a few statistics and facts about our December 2019 graduating class. So I'm pleased to report that our graduates and their classmates spent a great deal of time studying and doing research at the library. During the last 4 years, 5.1 million books or e-books were checked out or renewed. Our librarians tell me that they answered 47,438 questions. They conducted 2,862,321,000 research appointments, and there were more than 144,000 visits to the Learning Commons. Throughout your 4 years here, our faculty taught 67,948 courses, and according to our Chief Information Officer, you consumed 325,987,000 terabytes of data on the Wi-Fi. You think that was Netflix? No, that was studying, of course. Now we know studying takes fuel, and BGSU Dining tells us that our graduates ate a lot. Over the last 4 years, the Oaks Dining Center alone served more than 1.9 million meals, and our students consumed nearly 280,000 pizzas. And since it opened, Steak and Shake sold 306,034 hamburgers. Now, I might add that more than 2.3 million hours were spent at the rec center, so maybe there's a correlation there. But seriously, we are celebrating the accomplishments of a great group of graduates this weekend. As a public university for the public good, we embrace our responsibility to serve the public. And we do this by preparing our students to live meaningful and productive lives. And you have created public good by recognizing the importance of paying it forward. Those involved in student life and in our various signature co-curricular activities totaled more than 334,000 community service hours throughout these past 4 years. And in this year alone, our students raised more than $500,000 for nonprofit organizations. The value of the Bowling Green degree that you're about to receive has never been higher. We continue to be ranked as a Tier 1 university by U.S. News and World Report, and just this year, the Wall Street Journal ranked BGSU number 3 of all of America's public universities for teaching quality and number 1 for student satisfaction of the universities in the Midwest. Thank you. At Bowling Green, we believe that our students have the opportunity to belong, to stand out, and to go far. And that's more than just words, it is our promise. And this graduating class embodies that promise. In total, there are, as I mentioned, 1,047 candidates for degrees this weekend. 16% of our graduates are students of color. 58% are women. There are 52 international students representing 18 countries. We have an 18-year-old receiving an undergraduate degree. We have a 58-year-old receiving a bachelor's degree and a 60-year-old receiving their master's. So, as you can see, our graduates include both the young and the young at heart. You are ethnically diverse. You come from small towns, suburbs, and big cities. You are from different parts of Ohio, the United States, and from all over the world. Some of you may have completed your degree online, and I know that this may be your first time on the campus, and you're meeting your colleagues and classmates in person for the first time. However, all of you have one thing in common. You have found a university where you can belong. You found your place at Bowling Green, in the classroom or in the laboratories, in the residence halls, in clubs, in student organizations, in Greek life, or on the athletic fields. You made Bowling Green your community and home. And graduate students, you have found your place in Bowling Green community as well. You've worked with the faculty and mentors. You've conducted research. You've taught and guided our undergraduate students. You have contributed greatly to the success of our learning community. So our students have studied at Bowling Green during a very exciting time. We have witnessed 2 national club championships in women's bowling and men's rugby. Our women's soccer program won back-to-back tournament titles this year, and BGSU football upset Toledo in a 20-7 victory this year, returning the Battle of I-75 trophy to its proper home. And don't forget that our Falcon forensic speech and debate team won a national championship. Congratulations to all of those groups. We are also continuing the largest building and renovation era in Bowling Green history. You have had the opportunity to experience the most advanced collegiate media center in the Colleen Center and the renovated university in Mosley Halls. And you will be proud to know that we are not stopping there. Future Falcons will experience the Maurer Center, the new home of the College of Business, and a completely new technology building to support our programs in robotics and advanced manufacturing. All of this is to ensure that we have a strong learning community and a place where all can belong. That you're sitting here today illustrates that you've thrived at Bowling Green. You have found purpose, followed your passion, and stood out. You have embraced the unique BG learning experience, developing leadership skills throughout your journey. As a Falcon, you've learned to think beyond the discoveries made by others and have empowered your imagination to shape your future, to pursue new levels of excellence. In short, you have the knowledge and tools to change and lead the world. Now, in recognition of these accomplishments, I will now ask a number of students to stand and be recognized. Many of you have grown through experiential learning and co-curricular involvement. These types of experiences have helped you stand out. And so, if you have studied abroad, participated in a learning community, completed an internship or co-op, got involved in service learning, or conducted research, would you please stand and be recognized? Please be seated. So for those students who have taken part in an opportunity that has provided you with leadership education, including student organizations, academic honoraries or advisory boards, athletics, residence education, student government, teaching and/or research assistantships, would you please stand and be recognized? Great, please be seated. And finally, I would like to recognize the heroic service of our United States veterans and active members of the armed forces who are graduating today. Would you please stand and be recognized? Thank you for your service. So earning your degree today, earning your degree places you in a very select group of people. Less than 7% of the world's population has a bachelor's degree or higher. You have earned it, but with your degree comes an immense responsibility. You see, not only have you invested in your education, not only has your family and others invested in your education, but by attending a public university, the citizens and residents of the state of Ohio and the nation have invested in you. Now, not one of us has gotten to where we are without the support of others. Would you agree with that? And for our graduates, a lot of people have helped you achieve your dream, this degree. As you graduate from Bowling Green State University, I hope you will never forget to take the time to pause, reflect, and thank those around you who have supported you. And so, in the spirit of our 1987 commencement speaker, Mr. Fred Rogers, I ask, like he did in 1987, to take 10 seconds of your time, 10 seconds right now, to think about all the people who have helped you become who you are, who supported you, who were in your corner. 10 seconds of silence. I'll watch the time. I hope you'll never forget to pause and thank those around you who are supporting you. And so in closing, I encourage you to make a difference in your career, in your family, in your alma mater, in your community, and in your nation and in our world. Tackle messy challenges, communicate, work with, and learn from diverse peers. Empower others to unleash their creativity and take calculated risks. Be kind. Be kind, have fun, and never, ever stop learning. If you do these things, you will do well, but you will also do good. Congratulations, graduates. I now invite our Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Joe Whitehead, to the podium. Provost Whitehead.
Thank you, President Rogers. Public servant, advocate, statewide leader. Tonight's commencement speaker, Sheryl Maxfield, is a 1981 journalism graduate of Bowling Green State University and also holds a Juris Doctorate. Her career is defined by her commitment to public service. She currently serves as the director of the Ohio Department of Commerce, a cabinet-level position in Governor Mike DeWine's administration. The Department of Commerce is focused on promoting growth, success, safety of businesses in real estate, industrial compliance, securities, financial institutions, liquor control, medical marijuana, fire safety, and unclaimed funds. Before her appointment in the Department of Commerce, Director Maxfield served as Chief Counsel for Governor Mike DeWine when he was Ohio Attorney General. Her responsibilities included over 11 sections of that office. Time and again, Director Maxfield's work and through her commitment to doing good, she has driven the vitality of our state. Again, public servant, advocate, statewide leader, most importantly, a Falcon. I'm honored to present tonight's commencement speaker, Sheryl Maxfield. Please join me in welcoming her back to her alma mater.
Thank you very much, Provost Whitehead, for that introduction. President Rogers, Provost Whitehead, members of the Board of Trustees, faculty, distinguished guests, family, friends, and above all, graduates, thank you very much for inviting me to participate in the celebration of the class of 2019. 2019, you know, it's very odd. As I was getting ready this morning to come over to campus, I looked in the mirror, and instead of seeing some 20-year-old person staring back at me, I saw this 60-year-old woman. How did that happen? I mean, I can remember quite clearly going to Howard's to celebrate at the end of a term, meeting with Dr. Bislin about a journalism class, dealing with issues involving the Office of Residence Life, and then I remember, all right, it's been almost 40 years and everything has changed, although I'm pretty sure Howard's is still around. This campus and my experience here was critical in making me the leader that I am today. I currently run a State Department of 850 people that have a significant impact on the lives of everyday Ohioans. Those employees examine banks, they inspect skyscrapers, they are responsible for all the flow of alcohol in this state, they regulate medical marijuana, among many other types of businesses. And I know that I'm in the leadership role that I am today because of the skills that I honed here at Bowling Green. While here, I was active in state government, and I was president of the Delta Gamma sorority. And it's because of opportunities like those that I've never been afraid to raise my hand, to step up, and to give my viewpoint. So I grew up in Youngstown, Mahoning Valley, and a judge who was a family friend knew that I was interested in practicing law. And he strongly encouraged me to take an educational course that was heavy on writing. And I chose journalism at Bowling Green State University. And while the campus may look very different now from when I was here, and Sorority Row has completely changed, they moved it on the whole other side of campus, I have a very clear memory of everything that I experienced here. And for that which I can't remember, my fellow BG alums and I often talk about the great times we had here. So, I work in politics. Strike that. I actually work in a political environment. And it may surprise you to know, particularly now in this time of extreme political polarization, that I've been able to work for political parties of all shapes and sizes on both sides of the aisle in very high appointed positions. So when I first started in public service at the Attorney General's office right out of law school, and to put it in perspective, when I was in law school, 20% or less of the graduates were women. I was put in a section at the Attorney General's office that had 50 lawyers, and only 2 were women. So shortly after starting there, I had a discussion one-on-one with the then sitting Attorney General in his office, just he and I was incredibly nervous. And he asked me how I liked the section that I was placed in. And I told him that I was very surprised of being only one of 2 women and so much younger than the other lawyers. And he said, well, that will change as time goes on. And I said, yes, I know, I'll get older. And he said, no, there'll be more women in the profession, and he stood up and ended the meeting. On that issue, of course, he was right. And fast forward 10 years, and I came to work for the first female Attorney General in the state of Ohio, Betty Montgomery, who sits on this stage as a member of the Board of Trustees. Now, I will tell you straight out, Betty and I are from different political parties, but she gave me the opportunity to work on the most significant cases that were handled during her administration, including matters where it would have been a lot easier for her to have someone from her own political bent handle those cases. But I believe she liked my honesty, my willingness to give her a different perspective. I was not a yes man or a yes woman. I was going to give it to her like I saw it. Then the next Attorney General was elected, and during the transition, he met with managers inside the office to decide whether or not he was going to keep them on staff. I was chief of the health section at the time and had a long roster of clients. He noticed that we represented a licensing board that he had some intel about, a local prominent surgeon, spent his spare time as a teen physician. And by God, lawyers in my section were trying to take the license from the athletic trainer of that school, and how outrageous. It was a paperwork violation. Yeah, see, the paperwork violation is the gentleman failed to apply for his license for 6 years. So I turned to the AG-elect and said, well, what would the Supreme Court say to you if you hadn't applied for your law license during that same 6 years? And he stood up and the meeting was over. So I called my husband and I said, you know, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to survive the transition and be in the next Attorney General administration. But I was wrong and kept on again, even though I was from the opposite political party. My advice is speak the truth, share what's on your mind, and raise your hand. Now, I've been able to work with leaders on both sides of the aisle because I've not been afraid to speak my mind and speak the truth. But the most important reason regarding my ability to work across the political divide, and the message I really want to share with you today, is that I've always looked for the similarities instead of the differences. The search for common ground has been a guiding principle in my career. While I certainly hold my own political beliefs, I never applied them to the workplace. I tried to refrain from partisanship at work. Instead, my focus was being the best lawyer, the best manager, and the best public servant I could be. And I'm in the role I am today because the last Attorney General I served was Mike DeWine. Shortly after he was elected governor of the state of Ohio, Mike DeWine looked at me and said, you know, Sherry, you have some options. You can continue to work with me in my new administration. You can stay here at the Attorney General's office and work for what would have been my 9th Attorney General, or you have enough time you could retire. And I was ready, and I said, you know, Mike, I want to continue to work with you. And he said, that's great. What do you want to do in my administration? And I was ready. I want to be the director of the Department of Commerce. And this was his reaction. Everybody always thought of me as a lawyer, and this is not a lawyer job. But after working for half my career with people who had the opposite political identification from me, including the governor, I knew that my ability to find common ground would enable me to lead the Department of Commerce. You know, in this time of political polarization, where individuals have very firmly held beliefs and we see political strife all around us, we need to talk more about common ground. An unwillingness to engage with people who have a different viewpoint than you will keep you from more in-depth conversations. It will keep you from real talk about what divides us and possibly prevent partnerships that could bring real change and opportunity in your life. Listen to the other person and try and find space for productive discussion and potentially some understanding. As you leave this campus and move into the next phase of your lives, considering what finding common ground means and how to do that. First, consider other viewpoints. Not all your information should come from an echo chamber. If you are getting all your information and all your news from one source, you will never be able to fairly consider another's viewpoint. Second, consider that the motivations and beliefs of others are equally as well-intentioned as your own. Third, remember, we live in a very diverse society, and you will not have to work hard to find 100 viewpoints different from your own, but you will have to work harder to find what those same viewpoints and people might have in common with you. Finally, a disagreement on one issue should not be an impediment to agreeing on equally important issues. For your mental health, your peace of mind, and possibly career success, I think you will be well served by looking for that common ground. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak today. Congratulations to the graduates and to the parents of the graduates.
Thank you, Director Maxfield, for your inspirational remarks and wisdom. You know, our graduates are fortunate to learn from a public servant of your caliber. You are a graduate of a public university, and you are creating public good. I could not think of a more fitting platform to deliver your message. I now invite Provost Whitehead to present our students as candidates for the degrees.
Thank you again, President Rogers. It is now time for the recommendation of candidates for degrees. I call upon the Dean of the Graduate College, Margaret Zoller Booth, to present the doctoral and master's candidates. She will help each candidate's faculty mentor or advisor to bestow doctoral hoods upon the candidates for the Doctor of Education and the Doctor of Philosophy degrees.
Thank you, Provost Whitehead. President Rogers and members of the Board of Trustees, I am pleased to present the doctoral candidates. Will the marshals please escort to the platform the candidates for the doctoral degrees? Each candidate will be escorted by a faculty mentor or advisor and will be invested with a hood that is symbolic of the highest of academic degrees.
Carrie Marna Hamady, hooded by Dr. Judith May. Gloria Michelle Kreischer Gajevich, also hooded by Dr. Judith May. Darlene Jean Mack, hooded by Dr. Judith May. Amanda Eileen Miller Ricketts, hooded by Dr. Judith May. Shannon Marie Hughes, hooded by Dr. Pat Pauken. Sarah A. Stiltner, hooded by Dr. Chris Willis. Johnny Amos, hooded by Dr. Lisa Lockford. Michelle Renee Gibbs, also hooded by Dr. Lisa Lockford. Dilshan Harshajith Belagala, hooded by Dr. Michael Goyce. Philip Jameson Clements, hooded by Dr. Timothy Messer Cruz. Shagoki Ghosh, hooded by Dr. Vipa Funtumart. Sabrina Marie Gonzalez, hooded by Dr. Catherine Stein. Gina Marie Mate, hooded by Dr. Eric Dubow. Rolf Armand Ritchie, also hooded by Dr. Eric Dubow. Emi Kanemoto, hooded by Dr. Alberto Gonzalez. Vanessa Warner Lang, hooded by Dr. Kei Namaguchi. Kelly Moraz, hooded by Dr. Maggie Brooks. Stephen Ohaney Labi, hooded by Dr. Daniel Bomarito. Laura Ann Soroka, hooded by Dr. Sandra Faulkner. Hui Jing Wu, hooded by Dr. Susan Brown. And this concludes the recognition of the doctoral degree candidates.
On behalf of the faculty of the Graduate College, I now present the master's candidates and recommend them for the degrees as listed in the printed program.
From the College of Arts and Sciences, Taylor Michelle Williams. Graciela Guadalupe Sofo. Alexandra Escobar Castana. Maria Guadalupe Reyes. Hamed Alawarde Adajar. Devin James Black. Rachel Ann Newell. Nicholas Andrew Bush. Jacob Adam Stows. Harun James Mukalasinga. Regina Mongina Nayayuki. Connor W.F. McNeil. Martha Ann Stye. John Robert Wallachuk. Saeed Mohammed Albaj. Brittany Cordova. Layla Schumann. Eugenia Ama Pema Arthur. Courtney Renee Wilcox. Paige Caitlin Parker. Now we're beginning master's degree candidates from the College of Business. Olele Alamid Morohunfulu. Isaac Osei. Mung Shin Soon. Shi Shu. Rajendran Thagapillai Mahandran. Chitan Ranjan Saha. Shivan B. Patel. Tyler A. Puckrin. Benjamin F. Hale, Jr. Sydney Cooper Ferry. Beginning master's candidates from the College of Education and Human Development. Thomas Douglas Worsham. Jared Ray Cox. Kelsey Marie Ebanes. Tyler Daniel Smith. Benjamin David Toby. Lisa Marie Carr. Curtis A. Pete. Christina Cote. Catherine Sue Kroll. Angel M. Papadoc. Brenna Renee Davis. Marissa Ann Catalano. Kelsey Catherine Dotson. Elizabeth Jean McNutt. Joshua Edward Zach. Nicole Ray Williams. Stacy Elena Jones. Juanita Marie Thomas. J. Van Agnes Winfield. Anika Cherie McCants Brown. Susan G. Durant. Latonia Sherlon Reed. Soini Aksaki Caldwell. Kenneth James Bernard Quilter. Benjamin Jacob Kramer. Katie Ann Silla. Megan Rose Deanda. Martin Abbott Schneider. Margaret Frances Convery. Stephanie N. Armstrong. Alexander Isaiah Darby Lester. Brian Schmidt. Jacob George Calamunci. Daniel Jonathan Eckert. William A. Bradford III. Rachel Ann Newell. Now for master's candidates from the College of Health and Human Services. Sean Maurice Williams. Evan John Contento, Alyssa Lynn Barton. Samantha Lynn Lewis. Zachary Lyle Miller. Kiona Lynn Elizabeth Rogers. Keith DeAndre Lamont Williams. Elaine Renee Bryant. Elvin Vernon Barron Jr. Charles Anthony Sledge. Philip Charles Ensminger. Krista Milifchek. Kara Lee Middendorf. Sarah Jean Cook. Madison Ruth Hearns. Alexandria Marie Sigworth. Benjamin David Ramaklis. William Edward Reynolds. Miriam Al-Musa. And now our master's candidate from the College of Technology, Architecture, and Applied Engineering, Srinivas Kanamareddy. And our candidate from the College of Musical Arts, Richard L.D. Hopkins. And this concludes the recognition of our master's degree candidates.
Thank you, Dean Booth. Before I call upon the deans to present undergraduate candidates, I would like to recognize those students who have excelled in their academic endeavors and are graduating with academic distinction and honors. This is indeed a great achievement for these graduates and their families. Bowling Green State University congratulates you for your commitment and your success. There are 190 students receiving degrees with Latin honors this commencement at Bowling Green. To graduate cum laude, a student must have a cumulative grade point average of at least 3.5. Would those graduating with the distinction of cum laude please stand and be recognized? Thank you. To graduate magna cum laude, a student must have a grade point average of at least 3.75. Would those graduating with the distinction of magna cum laude please stand and be recognized? Thank you. And finally, to graduate with the distinction of summa cum laude requires a 3.9 grade point average. Would those graduating with the distinction of summa cum laude please stand and be recognized? Thank you. Bowling Green is proud to recognize graduates who complete their entire collegiate academic experience with a perfect 4.0 grade point average. These students graduate with the distinction of the President's Award and wear a special medallion in the recognition of this honor. Would those graduating with the distinction of the President's Award please stand and be recognized? Thank you and congratulations. In addition, I'm pleased to recognize the outstanding achievement of our students who have been honored through Phi Beta Kappa, Phi Kappa Phi, and who are in the Honors College. Phi Beta Kappa and Phi Kappa Phi are each one of the world's leading academic honor societies. Approximately 10% of higher education institutions in the world both have Phi Beta Kappa and Phi Kappa Phi chapters, and Bowling Green State University is proud to be one such institution. Students earning honors degrees today have completed designated coursework and an honors project, which includes independent research. These students must maintain a 3.5 grade point average or higher in all their coursework. They are wearing the honors medallion, a symbol of their academic success. Would our Phi Beta Kappa, Phi Kappa Phi, and honors college candidates please stand and be recognized? Thank you. And now I call upon Dean Ray Braun to present the candidates for baccalaureate degrees from the College of Business.
Thank you, Provost Whitehead. Will the marshals please direct the candidates to the platform? President Rogers and members of the Board of Trustees, on behalf of the faculty of the College of Business, I am pleased and honored to present these candidates and recommend them for degrees.
Ramsha Shakat Rashid. Erica Rosemary Brickner. Shelby R. Hensel, summa cum laude and the President's Award. Megan Elizabeth Ritter. Benjamin Paul Tassel, cum laude. Zachary T. Brownsword. John Foster Shively. Paul Allen Walker III. Adam Stephen Endicott. Andrew Joseph Luptak. Austin Coyne Belcher. Patrick Charles Beck. Jacob Andrew Morels. Jared Scott Poor. Michael Lee Hanby. Bartley Samuel Proctor. Conrad Zane Murphy, cum laude. Parker Matthew Stone. Alec J. Ramsey, cum laude. Miles Austin Harton. Isaac Lane Mielson, cum laude. Chris Ann Puckren. Tyler Reed Parsons. Allison Elizabeth Bond. Benjamin James Sampson. Patrick William Leo Voirel. Brock Edward Wilson. Christopher Kerr. Daniel Lucas Nobinger. Hope Alexis Marua, magna cum laude. Jessica Lynn Mayak, cum laude. Isaac David Ritter. Delaney McKay Reisner. Aaron Michael Price. Michael Francis Duvainois. Stephen Edward Cassidy. Sean William Mosden. David Nathaniel Hull. Trevor William Barber. Donovan James Scudder. Vincent James Karanite. Grant Michael Yoder. Grady Mitchell Wildman. Austin Allen Muller, cum laude. India Janae Worthy, cum laude and university honors. Mariah Elizabeth Alafa. Devon Marie Jackson. Amina Ashley Stroud. Margaret Marie Broering. Robert John Forker Bierman. Tyler Kenneth McCann. Joseph Spanenberg, summa cum laude and the President's Award. Cade Marshall Ratcliffe, cum laude. Madison L. Vincent, magna cum laude, university honors. Jacob L. Rowland, cum laude. Ryan Gregory Ludwig. Joseph Edward Orris. Alex William Sheely. Christopher William Grospich. Brandon James Earhart, magna cum laude. Lane Elizabeth Laudick, cum laude. Allison Rose Siebenek, magna cum laude. Matthew Joseph Clark. Logan Michael Brown. Gabriel Adam Payne. Evan L. Kabilski. Carrie Alicia Toback. Amanda Beth Lively, magna cum laude. Asil Sami Bashrahil. Leah Jean Allison. Bridget Ann McGowan. Olivia Celine Stout. Jamie L. Barron, cum laude. Kari Anita Anderson. Carly Marie J. Corey Christopher Gould. Elise Marie Clune. Madeline Lang McCartney. Nathaniel Robert Hornyak. Dana Rochelle Winkler, cum laude. Haley Alexandra Dosky. Grant Jacob Tinnerman. Paulina Judith Iacobelli, magna cum laude. Robert James Kishkin. Ricky Stefanowski. Stephanie Marie Sweeney. Jacob Kirkwood Pelton, summa cum laude. Matthew Robert Horner, cum laude. Mr. Horner's diploma will be presented by his wife, Dr. Christy Galetta Horner, a faculty member in the College of Education and Human Development. Shelby Nicole Baker. Lauren Ann Lewis. Brianna Christine Grobel. Shelby Lynn Matthias. Kennedy Elizabeth Weiss. Noah Lee Burchett. Erin Jane Waters. Riley James Roush. And this concludes the recognition of the bachelor's degree candidates from the College of Business.
Thank you, Dean Braun. I call upon Dean James Ciesla to present the candidates for the baccalaureate degrees from the College of Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Provost Whitehead, President Rogers, and members of the Board of Trustees. On behalf of the faculty of the College of Health and Human Services, I am pleased and honored to present these candidates and recommend them for degrees.
Michael Ray Ross. Jonathan Chandler Frederick, cum laude. Isaiah Jared Young. Sarah Elizabeth Burning. Anne Marie Rady. Joshua Andrew Johnson. Skylar Rain Beers. Kyle David Baker. Caitlin Rose Oberski. Callie R. Thomas, cum laude. Courtney Barbara Schmidt. Madeline Paige Sievers. Jordan Alexandra Horstman, cum laude. Jessica Margaret Early. Marissa Michelle Moore. Amanda Marie Bauer. Caitlin Nemechek. Ariel Nicole McVicker. Kayla Nicole Brown. Ciara B. Digby. Brandon Lee Frederick. Lauren Rose Gillespie. Sally L. Green. Gabrielle May Schmucker. Morgan M. Bates. Emily N. Redans, cum laude. Caitlin Ann Valschau, cum laude. Lainey Carolyn Foster, cum laude. Morgan A. Riegsecker. Morgan Lillian Schumann. Caitlin L. Starwalt. Kelly Marie France. Adriana Marie Cancilla. Connor Brianne Myers, summa cum laude. Taylor Harden. Mercedes Ann Grady. Jaden Zane Klein, cum laude. Sarah Nona Hinkle, summa cum laude. Connor Michael Armstrong. And Julie Elisa Kasky. Sarah Elise Bettinger, cum laude. Brooke Elizabeth Hankins, cum laude. Julia Ann Rode, cum laude. Megan Lynn Swinart, cum laude. Stephanie Nicole Stazniak. Mary Kate Bjorklund. Cynthia Marie Wardlow. Danielle Marie Contact. Rachel Leanne Wingate, cum laude. Amber Nicole Wilson, summa cum laude and the President's Award. Quentin Alexandria Morkel. Jordan A. Hersig. Elizabeth Courtney Smith. Alex Gabrielle Sorgi, cum laude. Jessica Marie Holly. Grace Nicole Nikata Portentoso, summa cum laude, President's Award. Mackenzie Ray Viola, summa cum laude, the President's Award. Mira Riley Kokomore, summa cum laude, University Honors. Larissa Sidney Kalinowski, summa cum laude, and the President's Award. Jacob Tyler Roofing, cum laude. Shale Alexander Wall, cum laude. Donovan W. Wheeler. Justin Michael Napier. Kyle Emmett Goff. Samantha Horn. Emily Ray Sard. Abigail Nicole Bates, summa cum laude, University Honors. Brooke Michelle Gallmeyer, cum laude. Stephanie Danielle Cook, summa cum laude. Madison Claire Dooling, cum laude. Allison Marie Biglin, summa cum laude. Jasmine Tamara Johnson. Micaiah Cheyenne Watson. Bria Burse. Haley Jo Caldwell. Megan Marie Schweitzer. Miranda Elise Benscooter. Lindsay Ann Dillander. Claudia Rose Chavez, cum laude. Joseph Mackenzie Stockton. Jasmine Aaliyah Gaynor. Jaden Nicole Fields. Xavier Monet Harden. Michael Eric Wilkins. Samuel Jeffrey Moorman. And this concludes the recognition of the bachelor's degree candidates from the College of Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Dean Ciesla. I call upon Dean William Mathis to present the candidates for baccalaureate degrees from the College of Musical Arts.
Thank you, Provost Whitehead. President Rogers and members of the Board of Trustees, on behalf of the faculty of the College of Musical Arts, I am pleased and honored to present these candidates and recommend them for degrees.
Jeffrey John Agan. Anthony Lamont Umans. Zebediah Dean Sharp, cum laude. John Benjamin Hansen. Sarah Marie Hart. Christopher Douglas Trimble. Yongtong Tan. Rachel Ann Thornsbury, magna cum laude. Alicia Marie Shabuski. Samuel Wade Colhep. Jaron Michael Fuller. Zachary Mark Green, magna cum laude. Nicholas J. Kottman. And this concludes the recognition of the bachelor's degree candidates from the College of Musical Arts.
Thank you, Dean Mathis. I call upon Dean Ginny Gallimore to present the candidates for baccalaureate degrees from the College of Technology, Architecture, and Applied Engineering.
Thank you, Provost Whitehead. President Rogers and members of the Board of Trustees, on behalf of the faculty of the College of Technology, Architecture, and Applied Engineering, I am pleased and honored to present these candidates and recommend them for the degree.
Stephen M. Jacobs, cum laude. Jordan Harrison Mitchell. Sean Hay. Omar Zaban Al-Shamari. Philip Benjamin Cornett. Job Philip Mueller. Matthew D. Nelson. Musa Kadman E. Al-Musaid. Rachel Mackenzie Duff, summa cum laude, President's Award. Brandon Edward Goldsmith. Christopher Lee Kenyon. Robert Lloyd Rogers. Ryan James Hodder. Jonathan Daniel Silva. Austin Robert Williams. Kelly L. Ruland. Patrick Michael O'Hara. Barry Geringer. Kevin Joseph Bywalek. Grant Anthony Geiser, cum laude. Jonathan Mitchell Heckman. Benjamin Patrick Murray. Robert Henry Cooper. Jonathan Francis Chanou. Victoria Turnbow. Christopher Wayne Reichley. Justin Richard Cuisan. Matthew Sears. Michael Thomas Foreman. Sarah Marie Black. Mackenzie Ann Levecki, magna cum laude. Emily K. Thiel. Sophia Ann Bodo. Elsie Marie Jones, cum laude. Macy Brooke Linney. Ashley E. Myers. Emily Elizabeth Ekron, cum laude. Lillian Pauline Schaub. Cynthia Renee Hazlett. Luther Terrell Lockwood, Jr. Brandon Martinez. Joseph J. Spalding. Haley Jeanne Bozy, cum laude. Eric David Graham, magna cum laude. Second Lieutenant John Robert Guthrie. Robert Wayne Root. Patrick Jeffrey McVicker. Jared Alexander Deisman, cum laude. Ryan Michael Bratton. Mitchell Patrick O'Connor. Kyle Brandon Carlin. And this concludes the recognition of the bachelor's degree candidates from the College of Technology, Architecture, and Applied Engineering.
Thank you, Dean Gallimore. I call upon Dean Andrew Kurtz to present the candidates for associate degrees from BGSU Firelands College.
Thank you, Provost Whitehead. President Rogers and members of the Board of Trustees, on behalf of the faculty of Firelands College, I am pleased and honored to present these candidates and recommend them for degrees.
Rihanna L. Miller. Molly Taylor Dillon. Deasia Camille Moore Swain. Jenna Hofer. Berlin Ann Weislich. Kelly Marie Perrin. Rhiannon Hope Fierstein. Lauren R. Goff. Candace S. Freeman. Tori Luigia Russo. Alini Nalbani. Carly Grunda. Megan Ray Siders. Brandy Lynn Reichel. Rebecca Page Kissling. And this concludes the recognition of the associate degree candidates from BGSU Firelands.
Thank you, Dean Kurtz. Will all the degree candidates please rise? Chair Keller, it is my privilege to present these candidates to you. On behalf of their faculty, advisors, and deans, I hereby recommend that degrees be conferred upon them as indicated in the official program.
On the recommendation of the faculty and by virtue of the authority vested in me as chair of the Board of Trustees, I hereby confer upon each of you the appropriate degree as listed in the official program, with all the rights, privileges, and responsibilities appertaining thereto. Doctoral and master's degree candidates, congratulations. Baccalaureate and associate degree graduates, this is the appropriate moment for the symbolic change of the tassel from the right to the left. Graduates, please be seated. President Rogers will now make some final remarks. President Rogers.
Thank you, Chair Keller. So, as is Chair Keller, we are proud alumni of Bowling Green State University. And so to our newest alumni, let me be the first to welcome you to one of the most valuable perks, a supportive network of over 186,000 alumni around the globe. And now many of you have donated to the Forever Falcon program, and we thank you for that support. But I hope that each of you have had the type of experience that will cause you to tell the BGSU story as you begin your next journey. Welcome to the Alumni Association of Bowling Green State University. So earlier, I had asked you to think about the people who made a difference in your life, that supported you. And I am sure many of them are here today. And so it is my pleasure to honor them. And so I'm asking the parents, spouses, parents, children, grandparents, family members, friends, and anyone else who has assisted these graduates, would you stand, please? So, as we close our 296th commencement ceremony, please remember that Bowling Green will always be one of your homes and that you will forever be welcome here as part of the Falcon family. And so I ask you to stay engaged with your classmates and to the university that you have enriched, a university that is far better because you chose to be here. You know, I'm reminded of a quote from Bowling Green's fourth president, Dr. Ralph McDonald, that is inscribed on the stonework of the Bowen-Thompson Student Union. It reads, we are forever linked to this institution by invisible bonds that do not wither or dissolve. We are linked to this institution by invisible bonds that do not wither or dissolve. You see, your success is our success, and our success is your success. We are forever linked to our institution. And so as I look out to each of you, our newest alumni, I see the next generation of thought leaders, of risk takers, of educators, visionaries, and big dreamers. You will solve some of the world's most complex problems, and thus you will create public good. As graduates of Bowling Green State University, that is what we do. That is who you are. I cannot wait to see what you accomplish next. Ai Ziggy Zumba.
We will now conclude this ceremony with a long-standing Bowling Green tradition, the singing of our university's alma mater, led by Mr. Cotman. The words to the alma mater may be found on the back page of your program. Please stand.
as we praise thy name. Make us worthy sons and daughters, adding to thy fame. Time will treat you kindly. Years from now you'll be ever dearer to our hearts, our university. From the halls of ivy to the campus scene, chimes ring out with gladness from our dear Bowling Green. When all is but a memory of the bygone days, hear our hymn, dear alma mater, as thy name we praise.
Audience members, please be seated for the recessional and remain seated while the platform participants, faculty, and graduates recess. Immediately following the recessional, we ask that you join us on the upper concourse and first floor lobby for refreshments. Thank you and congratulations to all.